Good afternoon, Aaron Golden.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome on VH Berries.
Great to be here, Victor. Thank you so much for having me.
I am extremely grateful because when you put your words and actions on an audio production, it becomes a full-blown entity that tells a side story. And if we move closer to the sound waves, we will have the opportunity to surf them. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so great, Victor. Thank you very much. Ready to surf some sound waves with you.
We are, Aaron Golden, both ready to surf those sound wave, which is why I am bringing my surfboard, eager to learn more about the golden rules, but also to use that plank as an 8 feet non-wobbly support for my mixing table.
That sounds great. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Absolutely, Aaron Golden. And first and foremost, how many legs does your table have to produce a solid sound?
Wow. Well, look, I have my desk right here, which is where I do a lot of my sound mixing on, and this one is just four, but four very sturdy legs. And it always depends on the project as to how many legs you need, but this one's got four.
That current table has 4 legs, and I would love to discuss about your relationship with sound, because you are the founder of a boutique sound house called London Blue Audio. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to. So, I came into sound in an interesting fashion. I'm originally from London, Ontario, Canada. And the reason my parents were there was because my father is an orchestral musician. He plays viola and played viola in my hometown Orchestra London. So we grew up around a ton of music. But my mother was an actress, and I really caught the acting bug as a kid, and I did a lot of theater in high school, and then went to college for acting, and then eventually came out to Los Angeles to do filmmaking. And then about maybe 8 years ago, a good friend of mine named Seth Coopersmith was directing a little sort of pilot presentation for a friend of ours named Gino Vigil, and he didn't have a sound guy. And he had done some sound, and he said, "Hey, Aaron, hold this boom and hit record and just make sure the audio levels stay within these two areas." And I guess I did a good enough job, because he came to me afterwards and said, "Hey man, you're doing other kinds of jobs right now, but if you were interested in kind of pursuing this, I would love to hire you to be my sound guy more often." With the films I was making, and Seth was a very good friend of mine, and this was a really fantastic way to get to work with him and to learn from him, and it was fantastic. We ended up traveling all around the U.S. We worked primarily for a YouTube Instagram personality named Rachel Demita, who hired us to make all of her content. And in doing so, I got to make sort of rep after rep and keep practicing the skills and keep learning new ones. And it was fantastic. In 2019, I actually got to travel to China to cover the FIBA Basketball World Cup. And Seth wasn't able to go on that trip, but my dear friend and collaborator Parker Croft was. So the two of us went to China and covered this Basketball World Cup with Rachel. So in doing so, I really got a start in the sound world. And then during the pandemic, when everything shut down, I had a chance to sort of take a look at where I was at, and with some encouragement actually from Parker, he sort of said, why don't you take the sound stuff more seriously, take it to the next level. So in, I think it was I think it was 2021. I got my first job as a feature sound mixer on a film called The Resurrection of Charles Manson, which was a sort of a horror thriller, scary movie starring Frank Grillo and Jamie King, and we shot that out in 29 Palms, and it was my first time running audio on a feature film, and it was totally overwhelming and wild and totally scary and crazy, but it ended up being this amazing experience, and from there I just sort of kept on with it, and now I think I've mixed about 7 feature films and done TV and commercials and all kinds of stuff, so it's really been an amazing journey altogether.
It has been, Aaron Golden, a great journey, and if I understood correctly, it started with you on a set, trying your best to keep the sound not too low, but
too
also
low. Yeah.
not too loud.
Exactly. Well, I mean, as you know, and as most film people know, audio is so important and can make or break how something sounds, how if a project works, if ultimately that feeling of film sort of takes off and burrows into you. And honestly, the most important thing is making sure it doesn't clip, it doesn't get too low, that you have the full sound, and that's, that's about 50% of the job is just capturing audio at a level that makes film able to happen.
Absolutely, Aaron Golden, making those films reality. And what is the story behind the name London Blue Audio? Because this is at the complete opposite of Copenhagen Red Pictures.
That's why I chose it. I needed something very different than Copenhagen Red. You know what? It's a funny story behind it. I'm just going to tell it to you because we're having a good time here today. My first audio company, that same shoot with Seth. So the final scene of the movie, of Seth's movie, involved a guy who was naked. And in order to make this actor feel comfortable, Seth had a funny idea, which said, well, why don't we all, we're still wearing our boxers, by the way. He said, why don't we take off, everyone take off their pants so this guy feels comfortable. It sounds weird, but it actually kind of worked because it made the set feel kind of fun and silly. And so at that point, my first audio company, I called us Bottomless Sound, because that was a sort of a joke on the fact that the first time I'd ever done audio, everyone had taken their pants off in order to make an actor feel comfortable. Now, as time wore on, Bottomless Sound ended up sort of feeling a little bit too silly for what was going to become a serious audio company. So as time wore on, and maybe I should have kept Bottomless Sound, but I didn't. As time wore on, I wanted to choose a name that represented where I came from, and things I love. And so I'm from London, Ontario originally, and so the London Blue came from that. And then my birthstone is topaz, and London Blue is a beautiful color of topaz, which actually is also the same color as the house I grew up in. So blue is my favorite color. It just sort of felt like it was a name that reminded me, my grandfather had this saying that said, never forget where you came from. And I think it's important for a lot of people, especially those who leave their home and go off into the world to pursue something like film, to not forget where you came from. And so it felt like London Blue would always anchor me a little bit to where I came from.
That specific name is anchoring your work and your identity. And you created the golden standard with concepts acting like undertow, because they are moving in a different direction from any current. How would you describe the first 3 golden rules of sound?
Interesting question. I mean, the way I think about, there's really 2 sides of audio. The 3 golden rules, I think It's a good question. I think the first thing that people have to understand is why film audio works, why it does what it does to us. And that is all based on the idea of signal and noise. And the signal of audio is what you're hearing that you want to be hearing, what the point of the images that you're creating audio for. And then the noise is everything else. The noise is the helicopters or the sirens or the crickets or the AC or all these things. One of the things that film does is it focuses our mind on the sound of a voice or what signal it is that you're going from. And then after that, the noise comes in to help shape that signal. But the signal is what's important. And people have this naturally with their brains, but try it. You'll be in a crowd and you'll hear all these people are talking and it just sort of sounds blah, 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 everyone's saying things. But when you focus on someone's mouth, oftentimes your brain can isolate that signal. So all of a sudden I'm hearing only what Victor's saying, or I'm only hearing what Aaron is saying, and everything else curls around it. And that's sort of what we've been able to accomplish through the microphones that we use in filmmaking. So I guess the first rule is point the microphone at the mouth. That like, if nothing else, you have to get that microphone as close as you can to the mouth to get that sweet spot, to get that rich, full sound. And it sounds like, that makes, but like, that's the thing. And, a lot of our microphones that we use are very directional. And so you really have to, I sometimes think about capturing sound as sound hunting, that I'm there to make sure people in post have everything they need to turn these individual elements into this beautiful soundscape. So rule number 1 is point the microphone at the person's mouth. Let me think. Rule number 2 is be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Everything that we do on a film set is stressful and crazy, and there's always more stress than you want there to be. And you as a person on set can decide whether or not you're going to be part of the problem or whether you're going to make things easier for everyone. I mean, one of the hardest things we do as an audio guy on set is miking talent, is because you're up in someone's personal space, and sometimes you're dealing with strange wardrobe, and I'm oftentimes having to sort of tuck wires into people's waistbands, things that you'd never normally be that close to most people. So I think even in that capacity, be part of the solution, make things easier for everyone, make that director not have to think about the audio, make other people's jobs easier, and it will be fantastic for everyone. And then I guess rule number 3, just the preparation for these jobs is everything. If you don't have the tools that you're going to need to capture the audio well for people, if you're not going to be able to tell someone I got this, and then if you don't have it, that's worse than agreeing to it in the first place. So if you have to do things with wireless microphones, with lavaliers, with the tools you have, with different elements, just you gotta prepare such that when you get to set, you're not, there's always going to be crazy things that happen and fires that happen, but with that preparation, I think you can end up doing really great work.
Absolutely, Aaron Golden. With those 3 rules, we are having a good start.
Yeah.
And the 4th rule could be to avoid stepping on the candles when it comes to recording the sound on the set of the Mummy Diamonds song.
Absolutely.
Called Or I Will Come Back to Hunt You.
Yeah, absolutely. That was an amazing experience. And one of the first times I got to record musicians, and Mummy Diamonds are, sorry, I just wanted to make sure this doesn't, perfect. So Mummy Diamonds are a good friend of mine, James Stein's band, and they, Kilby Rodell actually directed that, and Kilby was our production designer on As Easy as Closing Your Eyes, and Kilby came to me and said, "Hey, Aaron, I there's this song by this guy James, and it's absolutely stunning, and I would love to record a music video." That was actually during the pandemic, when people weren't making a ton of stuff, and so I said to him, "Absolutely, I would love to help you out with audio on that," and it was just an amazing experience. That song is incredible, and Kilby, who is our production designer, also is an unbelievable production designer and artist. So all those candles, all the skulls on the shelves, all the glass tubes, Kilby brought all of that, and we shot it in actually the basement of the complex I live in, and we got Cameron Schmucker to do the camera work on it, and that was just one of those projects that I still to this day love that song so much, and I loved making that video so much. But yes, there were a lot of candles. There were probably about 100 candles on that shoot.
Furthermore, you had more than 100 candles on that set and that video clip. As much candles that you will not be able to use on that upcoming project called Chasers. I would love to discuss about that specific short film directed by Erin Brown Thomas. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Absolutely. I would love to talk about Chasers. First of all, it's very exciting because I believe it's playing a very high-profile festival. I think by the time this video comes out, I hope it's okay to talk about, but it'll be premiering at Sundance this year, and it's a short film or a pilot put together by Erin Brown Thomas. This was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had in my entire life. What Erin set out to do was to basically make a film that feels like it's all one shot. It's all one take. So every scene was on Steadicam and was moving through this party that's happening in Los Angeles. So audio-wise, the issue was that, first of all, there's a ton of characters speaking in every scene. But second of all, because of how I had to hide in the middle of scenes because the Steadicam would be doing, 360 turns and stuff like that. The choreography for this piece was absolutely unbelievable. It would be like characters coming and going, but we had to, our Steadicam operator, Hayden, we would literally have to talk to each other about, okay, you're going to go that way, I'm going to duck into this hallway back here, and then by the time you're over here, then I can come back over here, I can scoot around you and boom this way, and we can hang a microphone here and hang a microphone there, and it was an incredible experience. It was one of those, it was very stressful. It was one of those that it was like, oh my gosh, it was so ambitious. And Aaron literally said, this is something that I haven't done yet. And this is something that I'm so excited about doing. And everyone was sort of like, all right, we'll do our best with this. And so I actually haven't seen it yet. I'm so excited to see it at Sundance, but I'm just so happy that, it came together, that her vision came to life. And I feel extremely proud that I was able to help her bring the audio part of that to life.
In definitive, you needed Aaron Golden to adapt in that particular environment to be able to capture those little white lies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's its original name. It was originally called Little White Lies, and then I think it's called Chasers now. But Erin is a special filmmaker. She pours so much into each of her projects, and she just goes above and beyond to think about every decision, how her poster looks, what her titles are, the way she interacts with her audience online. She's absolutely inspiring when it comes to sort of getting her work out there.
Absolutely, Aaron Golden. And you just mentioned the fact that you didn't watch that pieces of art yet, which is very interesting because I thought that during the post-production, you would have access to that short film to be able to work alongside supervising sound editor Gerard Watley and sound designer Gary Zacuto?
Well, so I have done projects where I was more involved in the post sound of it. This one, I had a couple conversations with them, and they had asked me some questions about certain things that I had, choices I had made or ways that I had done it. But on this one, it was a lot of them sort of taking, Erin's done a lot of films. I think she understands sort of the role and how people can, they can look at my work and get a good idea of what I've done. They had some questions for me and we had a couple conversations, but I, sort of let them do what they were going to do. And they, I think, really took it and worked with her. So on this one, now I've had, I did a short last year that I did both the production and the post-production sound design on, and I've done some other post-sound design kind of things. But on Chasers, I was more of just the production sound mixer.
You were more the production sound mixer because director Erin Brown Thomas didn't wanted she didn't wanted you to add some candle noise in post-production.
She was okay. That's what I do. If I'm gonna work for you, there's gonna be candles in there. So no, she no, not on this one.
Moreover, that particular story is following a starry-eyed musician navigating an party, an LA party, chasing her crush while desperately dodging the heartbreaking secret that could shatter her pursuit. Can you tell us a little bit more about your perspective about that tragedy?
Yeah, I think Erin wrote a short that I think really examines two phenomenons. One is the way that young people are willing to sacrifice a lot of what they think they need or how they should be treated in pursuit of their dreams. And she sort of applied it both to someone pursuing a romantic interest and someone pursuing their Hollywood dreams. That, this young woman is pursuing a romantic interest and in a way that denies this. I mean, what we find out in the film is that there was a moment where, the line got pretty blurred between, in a sexual encounter with this individual. And so I think, it's sort of heartbreaking, and it's also, at least on the Hollywood side, it's quite complicated. I've been out in Los Angeles since about 2009, and I certainly resonate with the idea of feeling as though you don't need to be taken care of while you pursue your dreams. And I think I just heard someone say a line about, I think maybe she had posted it, that, even the term chasing your dreams sounds kind of strange because you shouldn't necessarily be chasing something. And generally in life, when we chase something, it tries to get away from us. And, that she's sort of making a commentary on, on trying to change the perspective on what chasing one's dreams should look like, what it should feel like when it's almost about self-respect. It's that, like, you have to maintain self-respect and be assertive about what you need in the pursuit of romance or in the pursuit of Hollywood dreams or a career or whatever it is. Otherwise it ends up feeling pretty bad on both accounts. And I think that's a pretty beautiful and important message these days.
This is a pretty important message, Aaron Golden. And in those situations, it is important to flip the surfboard.
Definitely.
To be able to discover another side of your work, which is the producer and the producing side that adds up next to the sound mixing side.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as I was talking to a friend of mine, I love movies and I love making movies, and whether it's doing sound or writing and producing, the writing and producing is a very big part of what I'm doing in Los Angeles.
I would love Aaron Golden to discuss about a recent project that you wrote and co-produced, a short film named As Easy as Closing Your Eyes. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project?
Absolutely, I would love to. So, As Easy as Closing Your Eyes is a short film that was actually adapted from a feature film that I've been developing with Parker Croft, my friend and collaborator, for quite some time now. We had an amazing year this year, releasing As Easy as Closing Your Eyes and traveling with it. The movie is a sci-fi drama. It's a short sci-fi drama about a drug that gives people dreams about their dead loved ones. In the short film, in As Easy as Closing Your Eyes, it's about a grieving mother who is battling her addiction to the drug as she nears the first birthday of her late son, who she lost. So our film, we had this amazing team of people that came together to make this, including Abigail Breslin, who was an executive producer, and John Michael Hill, who was a college classmate of mine and also an executive producer. But basically, we'd been working on the feature for quite some time and felt as though we'd like to create something smaller that we could produce with the resources and the people around us, and so one thing led to another, and the ball started getting rolling, and we brought on some incredible producer friends of ours, Max Loeb and Chris Blim, and then we were lucky enough to work with another college classmate of mine, Laura Coover, who came on as the lead actress in the film, and we shot over 6 days last July. And then this year we premiered the film at LA Shorts International Film Festival in Los Angeles, and the film has gone on to play about 185 film festivals and win about 109 awards, I think we're at right now. So it's been an extraordinary journey with it. And we're really excited because hopefully, early next year, the plan is to release the film for an online release, so more and more people are able to see it.
As a matter of fact, Aaron Golden, you are counting the new festivals and the new awards every single morning.
Yes, we've had quite we've had quite an active Instagram to share the film and to connect with our supporters and our audience, and it's been awesome. It's been so fun to do that and to be a little bit more active. Honestly, I talked about Erin Brown Thomas earlier, who's the sort of queen of that, and we actually took some pages out of her book as we designed how to promote the film and how to get it out there and how to share it with people, and the response has been extraordinary.
The responses have been extraordinary, and that short film called As Easy as Closing Your Eyes is the first step before the feature film version called Late Radiance. Can you tell us a little bit more about the evolution and the differences switching to the longer format?
Absolutely. Well, so the genesis of the project was I was reading a book called The Singularity is Near by Ray Kurzweil. I was actually researching for a different project. And this is a futurology book. It's absolutely fantastic. And in the book, it talked about how the way that our brains work is that every person you ever meet in your life, there's a small pocket of neurons inside your mind that self-organize around that interaction. And those neurons are only activated when that person is in our presence. Consequently, if that person leaves our presence, those neurons lie dormant. So if a person never leaves our life or dies, there's a pocket of neurons in your mind that just sort of sit there and never get activated again. When people say it felt like I lost a piece of myself when that person died, it turns out that that's actually sort of biologically, scientifically what's happening inside your mind. You have a tiny piece of your brain that will never get activated again. So as I read this book, the thought occurred, well, what if there was a drug that targeted those neurons and activated them and could give you new experiences with that person that you had lost. So I took that idea to Parker, and Parker and I, we've been thinking about, we've done a lot of writing about the subject of death, and it felt like a project that both of us were really, really excited about. And so we started working on, at the very beginning, I was like, Parker who was relatively early to his directing career. And it seemed like a really cool thing to develop with him attached as director. So we started working on it for quite a long time. And so the question being about the short versus the feature, I think the big difference between the short is, obviously you're working with such a smaller runway, and you have to get into the story as late as possible. There's less time to get into the nitty gritty of the details of what's happening in this world. Whereas in the feature, you really can take a broader look at the impact of what this drug is, so we sort of envisioned this drug as something that was quite addictive and quite dangerous, but also very very tempting to people as you deal with grief. And so I think there's a lot more of that in the feature. It's a slightly different story. The short is about a grieving mother who's lost a son. The feature is about a widower who lost his first wife, and now he's remarried and rebuilt his life, and he starts taking the drug to see the first wife. So, number one, it's just two different stories, but number two, it's just you can take a little bit more time and develop things a little bit deeper on the feature. And I think we're both really excited about that. We're both excited about, being able to really, really give this story and these ideas and these characters and this world their full, 2 hour or hour and a half or however long it ends up being window to experience.
Taking more time and going deeper into the characters' personalities.
Exactly.
As well as maybe including Aaron Golden in the background somewhere,
okay,
in some scenes, exactly like in the 2008 feature film called Where the Words Mine.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you've done your research for sure. Yeah, so that's where I met Parker, was on that film. Absolutely. Yeah. Look in the background. You'll see plenty of Aaron Golden right out of college right then. That was fresh out of school.
You were fresh out of the school, Aaron Golden, and I would love to discuss about that unique, singular relationship with Parker Hendrick Croft.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that partnership, but also that friendship?
I would love to. Yeah. There's only a few people in life, for most people, that you'll ever have that sort of, unbelievably close relationship with, and that's certainly been Parker and I. So Parker and I met on the set of Where the World Mine, and he was this funny young sort of rascal actor from the East Coast. The first memory I have of him is, for some reason, there was bananas at craft services, and he had taken a dog leash and he had wrapped it around a banana, and he was walking a banana around set for some reason. And this was absolutely hilarious to us. And, from the get-go, Parker and I really, really connected on sort of absurdist humor and just jokes. I mean, to this day, we make each other laugh in ways that very few people do. So when I first moved out to Los Angeles, Parker was one of the few people I knew in the city here. And it was one of those relationships that we just started kind of talking about stuff and getting to know each other. And he was still acting at the time, and he was I was sort of watching him do his thing, and I was sort of transitioning into writing and producing. But we made a couple little shorts together, little, sketches and stuff. And then it was about 2010, 2011 where he was approached by Conrad Jackson, who was a writer and a director, about an idea for a small independent feature film he had. And that project would eventually become Falling Overnight, which was a feature film that premiered at CineQuest, and then we were on Netflix and Amazon Prime, and we had a great festival run with that as well. Parker was the lead actor in that, and then we also wrote it together. It was Parker, I, and Conrad who wrote that script together. And so from there, we just kept sort of working and developing stuff and thinking about ideas together. He's an extraordinary person. He's both as a person and as a creative filmmaker and sort of everything. He's just, his mind is always working. He works about as hard as anyone I know. And he's just unbelievably talented. I mean, his everything he does, the acting is great, and his directing is great, and his writing is great. And I've been really, really fortunate to get to work with him and collaborate him. I'm incredibly lucky. And to know him, he's awesome.
In conclusion, I am looking forward to accumulating more knowledge of that biological system called the sense of hearing, a place where sounds becomes information and sensation is replaced with stimuli. Thank you very much, Aaron Golden.
You're so welcome, Victor. Thank you so much for having me on and for talking about this. It's been a real pleasure.